Hello, everybody. Today I'll be presenting my final portfolio presentation and diving into the narrative and poetic ways of knowing. I'm going to start off by just briefly explaining the narrative way of knowing and why I believed it to be so important. The narrative way of knowing is an approach that brings meaning to the illness experience. It takes tension, conflict, and allows it to be told in a story rather than just your typical normal experience that a human would have on a daily basis. It's allowed me to understand the body and what it means to be happy and have a healthy mindset. Our bodies are very complicated systems, which can be hard to understand at times. When we look at things from a narrative approach, we're able to understand and connect ourselves with others through storytelling and comprehension. The narrative way of knowing allows us to connect with our inner unexplored self. We can dive deeper into the parts of our reality that may be uncomfortable or hard to talk about. This personally is why I believe the narrative way of knowing to be so important, is because you can dive deeper into those things that maybe a person doesn't want to think or talk about on a daily basis. It helps you dive into those parts, the unspoken parts of our reality that we like to brush under the rug at times. That's what the narrative way of knowing does such a good, phenomenal job of bringing out. I apologize for the shortness of breath. That's just me overcoming a sickness. I want to start off by saying the End of Life Communication book was absolutely amazing. Just being able to read and touch into parts where you talked about death and what it means to have life beyond this reality that we have, learning and about how fictional movies and film portray death and how it is in a hospital setting. I was able to learn so much, and that was extremely beneficial to this whole process and just in my future career in general. Something specific was seeing death happen in a hospital setting and how extremely traumatizing it is. And it's nothing like a fictional movie. It might be similar in some ways, but we can never prepare ourselves for seeing actual death take place. Not even a fictional movie. It might give you an idea what it looks like, but it's not going to give you that exact feel of what death truly is, especially in a hospital setting, how traumatizing that really could be. I personally have the pleasure of learning and gaining this profound knowledge from the author of this book, Dr. Davis. So I just want to really say I appreciate that. And I'm really going to be able to take that into my future career and life and everything that you've taught me. Two movies that I take from the book is MASH and Slaughterhouse-Five. Both very, very great, interesting movies. I actually love MASH. My dad was a big fan of it. So I'm very familiar with the film and have watched that numerous times. So yeah, that was interesting to be able to read about that. Two specific themes in each of these movies is death and how you have to cope with death. And a lot of the times in healthcare, we lose sight of how to teach people how to cope with death. And these movies do a good job depicting how they've coped with death and how they've coped with what happened in Dresden, Germany in World War II and Slaughterhouse-Five. And the dramatic scenes of the horrors of war that are described in the movie MASH. So those two movies, they hit home as it goes into detail of what our ancestors and people around us have had to encounter, especially when it comes to war. It gives me a broad new perspective on things. It shows how blessed I am and just how our troops need all the support they can get. Whether we believe it's the cause or not, they're just doing their job. They're protecting us. They're laying their lives on the line for us. And I'm forever grateful for that. So these movies really brought that out for me. And it definitely tied in the narrative way of knowing as it told a story. And I was able to comprehend it a lot better than just telling me an experience that happened. Instead, it dives into a climax, a setting, a plot, and a resolution. And that was, to me, what was able to explain death to me and how people cope with it. So it definitely ties into the narrative way of knowing. I believe those films are great for anyone who wants to learn how empathy plays a role in healthcare. Empathy plays a huge role in healthcare. You have to have empathy towards other people in order to really explain and to understand how to love somebody. That's why empathy plays such a big role into healthcare. How can you adequately help and care for others if you aren't even understanding and you can't even put yourself in their shoes? You have to have empathy. It's very important. Slaughterhouse-Five is a film depiction of characters' experience of firebombing of Dresden, Germany during World War II, as I said. This film caused a range of emotions within inside me. I felt despair, empathy, anger, and hope. Those same feelings that most people think about when they experience something like war or death or with innocent life lost. And I just felt, obviously I feel blessed that I'm in a position where I don't have to worry about that, but I just felt angry and sad because I'm not in a position where I can help those who are. And I just felt empathy for those who have to go to bed at night wondering if they are going to get bombed. Or, the soldiers that are in their pits right now, their pits of despair, wondering if today is their last day or tonight is their last night. And it just caused a range of emotions. A main one being anger. Just frustrated why the world has to be like this. Why can't we all live in peace and just love one another, despite our differences, despite what we believe? And that was one thing that this movie, specifically Slaughterhouse-Five, brought out to me over MASH. Truthfully, it really brought those emotions out of me. Have some images you'll be able to see in the PowerPoint. Regarding death and narrative symbolism. They just meant a lot to me. I feel like they symbolize a lot of positivity moving from this life into the next. I hope you enjoy my poems. I'm not the best poet, but I do my best, and I just was writing down my thoughts, whatever came to my mind, and I wasn't trying to rhyme. I was just saying what came to my heart and speaking from my heart. And I'll read one of my favorite ones. Which one is it? Grab someone you love, hold them tight. No need for grudges, no need for fights. Put differences aside and forget about your pride, for life is too short. Live with love and live with remorse. I feel like that's really important because we live in a society where we have so many differences and so many things that we disagree with others about. But at the end of the day, put your differences aside, forget about your pride, and just love one another. I don't think that someone, truly believes something because they're hateful. I believe that they're hurt inside, and that at the end of the day, once you heal that hurt, then you can get rid of the hate. And I feel like if we just live with love and remorse for other people and their experiences, that we can see real change, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in government or politics. I feel like that is extremely important. It's just putting your differences aside and just living with love, regardless of if this person's views are, extremely on the opposite side of what you believe. Unless it's radical, obviously you stand up to the radicals, but, live with love. For the most part, people are not just pure hateful beings. Just some few thoughts on my poems and the poetic way of knowing. I'm personally not a great poet and have never considered myself to be. However, this assignment allowed me to become in touch with my inner self. We all have an artistic quality about ourselves, whether we believe it or not. And art isn't about drawing good or being an excellent writer. It's about being in tune with our inner desires and fears and knowing and understanding ourselves on a deeper, more meaningful level. It connects us with how we see the world and what we expect to gain from it. When I was writing, I was able to understand a lot about myself, what drives and motivates me, and what my biggest fears are as well. Those were things that I had to dive into that were uncomfortable. It wasn't lack of success or money, but the fear of losing loved ones that caused me such a sense of uncomfortability. And that was a very important realization that I had throughout this assignment and writing my poems and learning about the poetic way of knowing, which I felt was really important. That's why I chose that one. That is pretty much it. I apologize for making this presentation so long. I'm a slow talker, and I just really want to pour out all my emotions and how I'm feeling in this presentation. Thank you so much for everything you've done this semester. I've learned a lot from you, a lot of new perspectives and things that I totally will carry into my career. So I just want to thank you very much. You know, yeah, just thank you very much. I've learned a lot. And through this presentation, learning again about the narrative way of knowing, the poetic way of knowing, it was extremely beneficial. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate you.